Welcome back to the channel, dear viewers. If you reach into an old jar of change and pull out a penny, it looks ordinary, worn from decades of hands passing it along, nothing more than a single cent. But then you notice something odd about it. The date says 1975. At first that seems meaningless, until you realize that simple copper coin has a history and value far greater than its 1 cent face. What if I told you that certain 1975 pennies are worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars, and that collectors around the world hunt down specific errors and rare examples like treasure hunters? What if I told you that a coin made to buy a piece of candy can turn into a prize worth hundreds of times its original value because of tiny mistakes at the United States Mint? Today we're diving deep into the history behind the 1975 Lincoln penny and the fascinating ways that minting quirks, mistakes, and rarities can make this common coin unexpectedly valuable. The Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first United States circulating coin to bear the portrait of an American president. From that first release onward, the Lincoln penny became one of the most familiar pieces of currency in American life, passed hand to hand in commerce for everything from soda machines to savings jars. The basic design endured throughout the 20th century with few changes, a tribute to the enduring legacy of Lincoln and the simplicity and recognizability of the coin's imagery. The 1975 Lincoln penny was produced in a copper alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This bronze composition had been standard for Lincoln cents for many years prior to the switch made in 1982 to a primarily zinc planchet with copper plating because of rising copper prices. In 1975, the United States Mint struck these pennies at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia issue carries no mint mark, the Denver issue carries a small D under the date, and the San Francisco issue carries an S and was struck as a proof coin intended for collectors. Philadelphia produced over 5 billion pieces, Denver over 4.5 billion, and San Francisco struck just under 3 million proof examples. The numbers show just how common these coins originally were, flooding cash registers, wallets, jar lids, and pockets across the nation. Ordinary circulated 1975 pennies, those worn by everyday use, are extremely common, and in today's market most of these coins trade at or very near their original face value. Because so many were minted, finding a spent 1975 penny in change carries almost no monetary premium in most circumstances. Many are still worth only a penny or a few cents as they change hands among collectors who savor the historical value but do not place high premiums on worn, ordinary coins. Even proof coins in moderately average condition typically trade at only a modest amount above face, though their polished surfaces can make them more desirable to collectors. A common proof coin from the San Francisco Mint in standard proof condition might sell for a few dollars or less, while the higher graded proof varieties in deeper cameo can go a bit higher depending on condition. The value picture changes dramatically when we consider uncirculated coins and coins with minting errors or unique characteristics. A coin described as uncirculated or mint state is a piece that left the mint without circulating in everyday commerce. These coins usually retain their original luster and detail, showing no wear from handling. A 1975 penny in mint state grade, particularly those with original red copper color, can be significantly more valuable than its face value, sometimes trading for several dollars or more. In exceptionally high grades, mint state coins with intense red coloration and crisp strike can command tens or even hundreds of dollars because such examples are rare survivors of decades of circulation where most coins have become worn, scratched, or damaged. Errors and minting anomalies are what truly transform an ordinary 1975 penny into a collector's treasure. Errors occur during the complex process of coin production when planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins, dies, the engraved stamps that imprint the design, or feeding mechanisms malfunction or experience misalignment. Because millions of coins are produced, even rare mistakes can appear in circulation or in collectors' rolls. While the vast majority of 1975 cents were struck normally and show no unusual features, a variety of error types exist that collectors seek out, each with its own history of how it came to be and why it carries a premium. One of the most collectible error types in Lincoln cents is off-center strikes. These occur when the planchet is not properly aligned within the coining press. The result is a coin whose design is shifted from the center, leaving part of the surface blank where the dies never struck. The degree of off-centering determines how striking the error is and how much collectors will pay. Small off-center misalignments that barely touch the design may fetch modest amounts above face value, but dramatic off-center errors with 25% or more of the coin blank missing significant portions of the design can command significant premiums. For example, a 1975 penny struck roughly 50% off-center with the date still fully visible can sell for several $100s depending on condition and eye appeal. Very extreme off-center pieces in high grade have even been documented selling for more. Another fascinating error is the double die obverse. This error arises in the hubbing phase of die production when the design is impressed onto the working die more than once with slight misalignment. As a result, the struck coins show doubled features: the date, the word Liberty, or other elements appear with a faint but separate second image. True double dies must be differentiated from mechanical or machine doubling, which occurs during striking and lacks separated relief. The double die error from 1975 is not as dramatic or famous as those from other years, but minor double die varieties on Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date still exist and can command premiums well above the normal values. Well-preserved examples of these double dies, especially from specific mints or die pairs, can bring prices far exceeding the face value. Planchet errors represent another rich area for collectors. These errors arise when the blank fed into the press is not the correct metal or shape for that denomination. In 1975, the standard Lincoln penny planchet was made of bronze, but wrong planchet errors have been documented where a coin intended for a different denomination was mistakenly struck as a cent. One notable example involves pennies struck on dime planchets, which measure smaller and are made of copper nickel clad instead of bronze. These coins are instantly recognizable by their silvery color and smaller size. In documented cases, a 1975 penny struck on dime planchet has sold at auction for several $100s and, in higher grade certified examples, over $1,000. These types of wrong planchet errors are especially prized because they represent a clear and dramatic break from normal production and are much scarcer than routine cent strikes. Other error types include clipped planchets, where the blank was improperly cut leaving a curved or straight clip missing from the edge, and die cracks and cuds, where the breaking or cracking of the striking die leaves raised irregular features on the coin's surface. These raised irregularities, especially large cuds where part of the die has broken away entirely, can be dramatic and collectible. A major cut affecting prominent design areas such as parts of the lettering can push values into the high hundreds or more for well-graded examples. Less dramatic die cracks are also collectible but often bring modest premiums. A phenomenon known as multiple strikes can occur when the coin is struck more than once in slightly different positions. These overlapping impressions create chaotic and visually striking patterns. Double strikes and even triple strikes on 1975 pennies have been documented. Depending on how clearly the design overlaps and how much of the original images remain visible, these multiple strike error coins can fetch significant premiums. Highly collectible double-struck examples with strong detail have been known to sell for prices well above typical error ranges, especially when graded and authenticated by a professional grading service. Collectors also look for repunched mint marks where the mint mark was punched into the die more than once in slightly different positions. While many of these varieties are subtle and do not carry huge premiums, specific repunched mint mark varieties can be documented and collected by specialists who appreciate the minting quirks. Compared to other errors, these often bring smaller premiums but still add interest and collectability to an otherwise common coin. The grading and certification of coins play a central role in the market value of 1975 pennies. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC examine coins for authenticity, condition, and error identification, then assign numerical grades that help standardize collector expectations and pricing. The highest graded examples of ordinary 1975 pennies in mint state with full red color have been known to achieve remarkable prices at auction due to their rarity in such pristine condition. There are documented sales where a 1975 penny graded at extremely high levels of preservation brought prices in the thousands of dollars, a huge premium relative to its face value and a testament to the collector market's appetite for top-quality pieces. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, struck with specially polished dies and intended for collectors, also have a distinct market. While typical proof pennies might trade near modest values in average condition, high-end proof coins with deep cameo contrast and immaculate surfaces bring higher prices and attract specialist collectors. These proof examples are distinctive because they were struck multiple times for extra detail and come from limited runs compared to business strikes. It is important to remember that while most 1975 pennies remain common and inexpensive, the market values fluctuate based on supply, collector interest, and discovered examples. An ordinary circulated penny will generally be worth roughly its face value with little numismatic premium. Many mid-grade uncirculated coins might sell for a few dollars, while error coins and high-grade examples fill out a broad range from modest premiums into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars for the rarest and most dramatic specimens. Serious collectors often consult detailed references, price guides, and auction records to determine the value of specific coins they find or consider selling. Defining the value of any particular error coin involves careful examination of the coin's condition, the clarity and type of error, historical documentation, and recent sales of comparable coins. The history of the 1975 Lincoln penny is a reminder that even the most modest objects of everyday commerce carry potential historical and monetary significance. The mundane penny that you might overlook in daily life can hide within its metal the marks of a mistake, a rare twist of minting circumstances, or an extraordinary survivor from an era when billions were struck but few remain in pristine condition. Whether you are a collector combing through change or simply appreciate the hidden stories behind ordinary objects, the 1975 Lincoln penny stands as one of the classic examples of how numismatics transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. What if I told you that a penny you've used thousands of times, a tiny 1-cent coin from 1984 with a little D stamped beneath its date, could under the right circumstances be worth not 1 cent but hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars because of mistakes made during production or unique characteristics that make it rare and highly collectible? That's right, a simple 1984 D Lincoln penny from the United States, a coin you might find in your pocket change or jar of old coins at home, has a history and a market value far beyond its original face value for those rare specimens that bear errors, misprints, doubled dies, and minting anomalies. Now, we explore the history of this coin, how it was made, what makes certain examples valuable, how errors occur in the minting process, and why some 1984 D pennies are worth vastly more than their 1-cent denomination. The Lincoln penny, first introduced in 1909, became an iconic piece of American currency. It was originally designed to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth, a first for U.S. coins that previously had featured allegorical figures rather than real historical figures. Over the decades, the basic design endured with relatively few changes, carrying Lincoln's portrait on the obverse side and various reverse designs through the years. By 1984, the design featured Abraham Lincoln's bust on the obverse with the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a look that was familiar to every American and widely circulated in everyday commerce. The 1984 Lincoln penny was struck on a planchet consisting primarily of zinc with a thin plating of copper, a composition that began in 1982 when the U.S. Mint changed from the older bronze planchets due to the rising cost of copper. Modern zinc pennies have a core of zinc with a plating of copper bonded to the surface, and the 1984 issues followed this composition that most people still think of as copper pennies, despite the core being zinc. In 1984, pennies were struck at multiple U.S. Mint facilities. The Philadelphia Mint made coins without a mint mark, the Denver Mint made coins with the small letter D beneath the date, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins that were sold directly to collectors and bear an S mint mark. The Denver minted 1984 D penny saw huge production numbers. Over 5.5 billion were struck, and like most coins that entered circulation this way, the vast majority are worth only their face value when found in everyday change. In average circulated condition, a 1984 D Lincoln penny is generally worth just 1 cent, the denomination stamped on it and the amount it would buy back in 1984 and today. Most of these coins show years of wear, scratches, tone changes, and other signs of everyday use. They were intended for commerce, not for collectors, and they have circulated as such for decades. When collectors discuss coin values, a wide spectrum opens between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Normal circulated coins are abundant, and their value rarely deviates much from face value. The market places value on rarity, demand, condition, eye appeal, and historical importance. For a typical 1984 penny that has spent years in pockets or cash registers, the collector market offers hardly any premium because there are simply too many of them and too many survivors of similar condition. Even uncirculated examples, those that somehow avoided wear and remained in mint state, might sell for $1 or $2 or a few dollars on average auctions and dealer lists, a modest premium for collectors who build sets or seek high-grade examples of every year. But then there are the exceptional specimens, the ones that break the mold and attract serious collector interest. These are coins that, through no intention of the mint, present features not characteristic of the ordinary issue. Throughout the year's production, errors sometimes occur because of minor malfunctions, misfeeds, die misalignments, misapplications of dies, mistakes in planchet preparation, or anomalies in the striking process. When millions of coins are made, even tiny percentages of errors can produce notable numbers of unusual coins that collectors prize and pursue. The most famous and valuable error types in modern Lincoln pennies involve double dies, where the design elements appear doubled because of a mistake in the creation of the dies themselves. In 1984 coins, including some from the Denver Mint, examples of double die obverse errors are known to exist and are among the most sought after by collectors. This doubling happens when the die used to strike the obverse design received multiple impressions from the hub in slightly different positions before being used, creating permanent doubling on the die surface. When that die strikes a planchet, the doubled design is impressed onto the coin. The result can be dramatic doubling on lettering, dates, and even Lincoln's features. One of the most famous double die errors from the era is the so-called doubled ear variety, where Lincoln's ear appears to have a secondary, shadowy doubling. Although the most dramatic double die issues in 1984 are often attributed to Philadelphia Mint coins, there are also documented double die varieties in Denver Mint examples. These rare coins can show doubling on the inscriptions like Liberty, In God We Trust, the date, and Lincoln's profile itself. Certified examples graded by major grading services of these double dies have been known to achieve significant values at auction, ranging from hundreds to thousands of dollars depending on grade, clarity, rarity, and demand. Beyond double dies, there are other types of errors that can elevate value. Off-center strikes occur when the planchet is not properly aligned between the dies when struck. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing and the blank edge is visible. The degree of off-centering dramatically influences value. A minor off-center strike might only be worth a few dollars in mid-grade condition, but a major one where the date and key design elements are still fully visible yet displaced can fetch much higher premiums. Collector interest in off-center errors continues because they clearly demonstrate a mishap in the minting process and are visually distinct. Another intriguing error type is the unplated planchet error, a coin that was struck without the correct copper plating on the zinc core. In these rare cases, the penny may exhibit a silver-colored appearance because the copper plating did not bond properly or was missing when the coin was struck. These errors are detectable at a glance because they look unlike normal copper-colored cents. Unplated planchet pennies may sell for tens to hundreds of dollars in collector markets, depending on condition and eye appeal. Yet another type of rarity comes from wrong planchet strikes, where a die meant for a penny erroneously strikes a planchet intended for a different denomination. One documented error in the broader 1984 penny series is a double denomination strike where a dime planchet, for example, received a Lincoln penny impression. These are extremely rare because they require feeding the wrong blanks into the press and striking them with a die pair intended for another denomination. Errors like this command high values because there are very few recorded and they represent dramatic departures from normal minting. Errors like die cracks, cut errors, repunched mint marks, broad strikes, lamination errors, and multiple strikes can all influence the value of specific 1984 pennies. Die cracks occur when the die itself begins to fracture, leaving raised lines on the struck coin that follow the pattern of the crack. Some of these can be attractive and are collectible, while others add subtle character. A cud error happens when a piece of the die breaks completely, leaving a blob-like raised area on the coin that corresponds to the missing die section. Repunched mint marks can occur when the mint mark punch is applied more than once in slightly different positions to the die, leading to a distinctive doubled mint mark on the coin, a variety that many collectors track and prize. In evaluating any of these error coins, condition plays a pivotal role. Coins are graded on a scale that assesses how well preserved they are, with higher grades indicating coins that show less wear, have fewer surface imperfections, and retain original luster. Grading services like PCGS and NGC authenticate and assign numerical grades that help define market value. A dramatic error in uncirculated condition certified at a high grade will demand significantly more at auction than the same error in heavily worn circulated condition. Professional grading and certification also provide confidence to buyers and sellers that what they are trading is genuine and accurately described. Doubling, off-center errors, unplated planchets, and other major varieties are often authenticated and graded before sale. Record sales have shown that rare 1984 pennies with dramatic errors certified at high grades can fetch breathtaking prices. Histories circulate of some specimens selling for many thousands of dollars, and in a few rare cases the very top examples even breaking into five-figure territory when they have extraordinary eye appeal, extremely clear error characteristics, and top-tier grading. It is important to note, however, that most 1984D pennies in circulation today are extremely common and will never reach these values. Ordinary circulated examples remain worth their original face value because the mintage was enormous and survival rates high. Even many uncirculated examples that show no major errors are only worth modest premiums because they are widely available to collectors. The true value lies in the unusual and the rare, the outliers that tell a history of something gone awry in the minting room, a momentary mishap captured in metal forever. Collectors examine these coins carefully under magnification, looking for signs that distinguish a valuable error from commonplace circulation wear or minor blemishes. Doubling must be genuine rather than mechanical, meaning it stems from die creation rather than strike motion. Off-center percentages must be significant enough to be considered errors. Plated planchet anomalies must show clear absence of the intended surface, and rare varieties must be authenticated. All of these factors are assessed in relation to current market demand, auction records, collector interest, and comparative sales reports. The market for error coins and high-grade specimens is active and global. Collectors and investors alike purchase these pieces through auction houses, dealer networks, online marketplaces, and coin shows. While a run-of-the-mill circulated coin sells for very little, a dramatic error specimen can attract multiple bidders and ascend well above standard pricing levels. For example, common 1984D Lincoln pennies without errors might trade for a few cents to a couple of dollars in uncirculated grades, but rare error specimens, especially double dies, have been reported to sell for significantly higher sums depending on grade, rarity, and visibility of the error. Some of these top error coins have fetched prices in the tens of thousands of dollars when authenticated and sold to keen collectors seeking standout pieces. The history of the 1984D Lincoln penny illustrates the broader principle that even everyday objects, items designed for routine commerce, can hold hidden numismatic value when they deviate from the norm. What most people see as simple pocket change can, for the keen eye and informed collector, tell a history of mint history, craftsmanship, occasional mistakes, and the ways in which rarity and condition translate into monetary value. A single penny can bridge ordinary currency and collectible treasure, and for enthusiasts who study the nuances of mint errors and varieties, every coin in their collection might warrant a careful second look. In the end, the value of a 1984D Lincoln penny depends not on its tiny denomination but on the unique characteristics it bears and the extraordinary journeys those coins make from mint to collector hands, a journey that can elevate a humble 1-cent piece into something far more valuable and intriguing. What if I told you that a 1-cent coin you might have used to buy a piece of candy back in the 1980s could under the right circumstances be worth not just a penny, not just a few dollars, but hundreds, thousands, and in extreme cases tens of thousands of dollars today because of tiny mistakes made during the minting process or rare characteristics that make certain examples exceptionally valuable? This is the remarkable history of the 1986D Lincoln penny from the United States Mint, a coin that at first glance seems ordinary and common, yet under closer inspection hides a world of history, minting intrigue, and collector fascination. In this deep dive we are going to explore in great detail the background of this coin, how it was produced, why most examples are worth only their face value while other examples are worth exponentially more, the fascinating errors and mint anomalies that can make certain specimens tremendously valuable, how the market views condition and rarity, and what you should know about the coin's current market value and behavior in circulation. The Lincoln penny is one of the most iconic coins in American numismatics, a coin design that stretches back to 1909 when the United States Mint introduced it to commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent was the first circulating American coin to depict a real historical figure rather than an allegorical representation, and it quickly became a familiar and enduring piece of everyday currency. For most of the 20th century, the penny remained a humble but ubiquitous part of American life, used for everyday transactions and passed from hand to hand for decades. By 1986, the Lincoln penny had long since entered the modern era of mass production and high circulation. In the early 1980s, the mint changed the coin's composition from a primarily copper alloy to a zinc core with a thin copper plating because the cost of copper had risen sharply. As a result, most pennies produced in 1986, including those from the Denver Mint with the D Mint mark, were copper-plated zinc. This composition remains standard for modern pennies, a predominantly zinc interior with a copper surface. The 1986 Lincoln penny continued the long tradition of the familiar obverse featuring President Lincoln's profile and the reverse showing the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. The number of pennies struck in 1986 was phenomenal. At the Philadelphia Mint alone, almost 4,500,000,000 pennies were produced, while the Denver Mint struck about 4,442,866,698 of these coins. Additionally, the San Francisco Mint produced roughly 3 million proof coins intended for collectors rather than circulation. Because of these enormous production figures, ordinary circulated 1986 D pennies remain extremely common and are worth only their original face value today when found in everyday change. In average circulated condition, the coin's value is effectively 1 cent, and even many uncirculated examples without significant eye appeal or collector-worthy characteristics may only command $1 or $2. The sheer volume of examples in circulation means that the typical 1986 D Lincoln penny sells for far more in face value than it does in collector value unless there is something special about the coin. Consensus price guides confirm that circulated 1986 D pennies are generally worth 1 cent, while mint state examples in high grades may reach low single digits in dealer and auction markets. Despite being over 3 decades old, without collector interest or unusual features, these coins remain common and inexpensive, but that is just the beginning of the history. The true fascination for collectors and investors comes when we examine how certain coins deviate from the norm. Although average 1986 D pennies are abundant and inexpensive, some coins survive in exceptionally high condition or bear rare errors that dramatically increase their worth. Here the interplay between minting history, condition rarity, and market value becomes clear. The first factor to consider is what collectors call condition rarity. This refers to the idea that although billions of coins were minted, only a tiny fraction of them remain in pristine, uncirculated condition decades later. Because pennies from this era are made of copper-plated zinc, they are especially prone to surface deterioration and handling marks. The zinc core is chemically unstable, so these coins easily develop corrosion, scratches, discoloration, and surface weakness if they are not carefully protected. A coin that avoided circulation and survived in mint state with full original red copper color is therefore much rarer than the original mintages would suggest. The market reflects this scarcity. While ordinary circulated coins trade at face value, uncirculated examples graded highly by professional services command premiums. In top uncirculated grades with brilliant red surfaces and sharp strikes, some 1986 D pennies have sold for dozens or even hundreds of dollars in specialized auctions, particularly when certified at high grades by grading services. Some extreme examples graded MS69RD Mint State 69 Red have reached extraordinary prices compared to average coins, with one documented sale approaching around $7,840 in 2021. Such records demonstrate how condition alone without any mint error can elevate a coin's value dramatically above its face amount. This contrast between abundant, worn examples and rare, high-grade survivors is a defining feature of modern coin collecting in general and 1986 Lincoln penny specifically. Even more compelling than condition rarity are the coins that bear minting errors or anomalies, where something went awry in the production process. Coin production involves multiple steps, each of which offers opportunities for mistakes. Planchets must be properly prepared with the correct metal composition and size, dies must be engraved and conditioned correctly, mint marks must be applied accurately, and the high-speed coining presses must align perfectly for each strike. In the real world of minting millions of coins per day, even minute imperfections or misfeeds can produce coins that look dramatically different from their intended design. These anomalous coins are error coins, and many of them are highly prized by collectors not because they are intentionally made but because they defy standard production norms and therefore are much rarer than ordinary examples. One of the most prominent error categories on 1986 D pennies is double die obverse. A double die error occurs not when the coin itself is struck twice, but when the die that strikes the coin receives multiple impressions from the hub during its creation. If the hubbing impressions are slightly misaligned, the raised elements of the die will carry duplicated features. When such a die is used in production, every coin it strikes will show the doubling. On 1986 D pennies, one significant double die obverse variety is known and catalogued. This variety shows clear doubling on inscriptions like "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and parts of the date, and sometimes even on Lincoln's profile. Collectors and specialists track these varieties closely because they represent genuine die errors and because they are difficult to produce in large numbers. Furthermore, the dramatic visual effect of doubling adds to collector appeal. According to numismatic references, the 1986 D double die obverse is considered one of the stronger double die varieties of the 1980s, with examples that can sell for a wide range of values depending on grade and eye appeal. Circulated examples with this error might trade for moderate premiums compared to ordinary coins, while uncirculated specimens with clear and strong doubling can command several $100s or more when authenticated and certified. Prices reported in recent years show that circulated examples of the 1986 D double die obverse have sold for between $35 and $75, while uncirculated MS63 examples may achieve several $100s. Top-graded examples can, in some cases, reach into the higher end of the market, particularly if the doubling is bold and the coin strike and surfaces are otherwise excellent. The presence of this error can transform an otherwise modest modern penny into a true collectible with significant value. Another type of error that collectors search for is the off-center strike. These occur when the blank planchet that is supposed to be centered between the dies is instead slightly misaligned or improperly fed. When the coining press activates, the dies strike the planchet in the wrong position, leaving part of the coin blank where no design is present and causing the struck design to be displaced off-center. The severity of the off-centering strongly influences the coin's desirability and value. Minor off-centering of only a few % often holds little collectible value because the design is still essentially intact and the misalignment is insignificant. However, dramatic off-center errors where a significant portion of the design is missing, particularly if the date and key inscriptions are still visible despite the misalignment, are highly prized. On 1986 D pennies, off-center errors have been documented, and examples where substantial portions of the design are missing can command premiums from tens to hundreds of dollars depending on how much of the design remains and how visually striking the error appears. Beyond double dies and off-center strikes, 1986 D pennies also exhibit other errors and anomalies. One such example is missing clad layer errors, which occur when the copper plating does not properly bond to the zinc core during planchet preparation. In some cases, portions of the copper layer may be missing entirely on one or both sides, leaving the underlying gray zinc core exposed. These errors can be dramatic in appearance and are collectible because they are rare departures from the standard copper color collectors expect in modern pennies. The value of these errors again varies based on condition and visual impact, with some grading references placing values in the range of $50 to $200 for well-preserved examples showing large areas of missing plating. Other error types include double strikes, where a coin receives more than one strike either due to coining press malfunction or because the planchet was not fully ejected before another strike occurred. These double strikes can produce overlapping or ghostly design images and are sought after for their unusual appearance. Collectible error coins can also show repunched mint marks on 1986 D pennies. Before the widespread use of automated die production, mint marks were often hand-punched into working dies. If the mint mark was misaligned or incorrectly applied, workers sometimes attempted to punch over the original mint mark, producing repunched mint mark RPM varieties. On 1986 D pennies, RPM varieties exist where the D mint mark shows evidence of multiple impressions with slight offsets. Collectors interested in varieties may pursue these coins, and values for RPM examples vary based on how distinct the repunching appears. Lesser degrees of repunching might bring modest premiums in the range of a few dollars to tens of dollars, while more dramatic repunching with clear secondary images can command higher prices in higher-grade coins. Identification often requires magnification because the differences between the original and secondary punches can be subtle. The highly detailed world of mint errors also includes lamination errors, where the copper plating actually peels or flakes away from the zinc core, leaving irregular surface texture or missing metal layers. These errors generally arise from imperfections in the bonding process of the clad layer and vary in severity. Minor lamination flakes often do not greatly enhance collectability, but large areas of missing plating that produce stark visual contrast and clearly unintentional results can be worth collecting and may bring modest premiums. While many of these error varieties are known and documented, it is worth emphasizing that error coins must be accurately identified and distinguished from common post-mint damage. Coins that appear scratched, corroded, or discolored because of wear in circulation typically have little collector value beyond face or low premiums unless they genuinely exhibit mint origin anomalies. Professional grading services help in this regard by authenticating and grading coins, providing collectors and buyers with confidence that what they are acquiring is indeed a genuine error variety rather than surface damage or misleading visual artifacts. Another crucial factor in valuing 1986 D pennies is the role of professional grading and certification. Services such as PCGS and NGC carefully examine coins for condition and authenticity. Coins graded at high levels of preservation and striking quality, particularly those in the top tiers of the grading scales like MS66RD or MS67RD, are especially rare for this modern zinc-based scent and thus command significant interest. Auction records and price guides show that top-graded specimens of ordinary 1986 D pennies have sold for large sums. In one notable sale, an MS69RD 1986 D penny fetched around $7,840, illustrating the high end of what condition rarity alone can achieve even without dramatic error features. This shows how, when a coin is both extremely well preserved and certified at a near-perfect grade, collectors are willing to pay prices many thousands of times the coin's face value. In contrast, typical proof coins from the San Francisco Mint with the S Mint mark also have their own market segment. Proof coins are struck with specially polished dies and often display mirror-like fields and frosted devices for enhanced contrast. While many proof coins show only modest premiums because they were intended for collectors and are less rare than high-grade business strikes that avoided circulation, exceptional proof examples, especially those with deep cameo contrast, can also command higher prices depending on grade and eye appeal. When we look at how 1986 D pennies behave in circulation and market value, it becomes clear that the vast majority remain only worth their original 1-cent denomination because they are abundant and show everyday wear. In common circulated grades, almost all 1986 D pennies will trade for face value. Even some uncirculated business strikes without outstanding eye appeal or quality sell for only a few dollars in dealer lists and auctions. But when a coin is either a rare error or has survived decades without wear and retains its original luster, the history changes dramatically. Both error coins and high-grade survivors can be worth exponentially more than face value, in some cases hundreds to thousands of dollars. These values are driven by collector demand, rarity, condition, documented auction records, and professional certification. Throughout the world of coin collecting, the 1986 D. Lincoln penny serves as a perfect example of how modern coins with massive mintages can still yield extraordinary surprises. It demonstrates that face value is not destiny. A small 1-cent piece can carry historical significance, reveal the inner workings of mint production, stand as evidence of mechanical mistakes, and hold real monetary value for collectors when certain conditions are met. Whether it is the allure of a significantly off-center strike, the subtle yet impactful double die obverse, a dramatic missing clad layer error, or the rarity of a top-graded mint state specimen, the market rewards uniqueness and condition. In the world of numismatics, even the humble 1986 D. Lincoln penny invites careful scrutiny, promising that amazing and valuable discoveries might be hiding in plain sight in jars, collections, and rolls of change that many people overlook. By understanding the coin's history, how errors occur, and why collectors value certain examples, you gain insight into how something as simple as a penny can become a treasured collectible worth far more than its 1-cent face value.